You ever notice how the best art often smells faintly of danger? Like it was made on the wrong side of a rule. Today we're asking a blunt question. What happens to an artist's mind when words, images, or ideas are policed by governments, platforms, institutions, or even by fear itself? Spoiler, censorship doesn't just remove art from the world, it rewires the artist. Let's unpack how, with research, real-world examples, and stories you can't unsee. Start simple. Censorship sounds like bureaucrats with scissors, but it's bigger. It's formal bans and arrests, yes, but also informal pressures, surveillance, social shaming, platform moderation, and the quiet internal decisions an artist makes to avoid trouble. There's the visible hammer, a book ban, a jail sentence, and the invisible echo, artists who stop themselves before they even begin. There's a name for that invisible effect, the chilling effect. When people avoid speaking, creating, or sharing out of fear of consequences. PEN America and other organizations document that writers and creators often self-censor because of surveillance or legal risk. That self-policing changes what gets made in the first place. How does censorship change what an artist does? Artists avoid riskier subjects. If you know a subject could get you banned or worse, you avoid it. Over time, whole themes disappear from public discourse. If speech is dangerous, artists move to metaphor, allegory, or medium shift. Think of Soviet-era writers using archival fiction or painters embedding messages in abstraction. Or they move online to ephemeral performances or to diaspora communities. Censorship narrows possible audiences. That changes style. Smaller, safer audiences reward different aesthetics. Art for private salons looks different from art for mass publicity. This is the sneakiest one. Artists start policing themselves before a censor ever sees a line. That internal filter is sticky. It alters habit, risk tolerance, even imagination. Publishers, galleries, festivals, all gatekeepers may refuse risky work, which conditions artists to produce commercially safe content. Over time, the ecology of support channels matters as much as the law. These are behavioral levers, not metaphors. Remove one, and the artistic landscape changes. Censorship doesn't only silence, it shapes. Many artists adapt in creative ways. Samizdat and underground publishing. In Soviet times, writers circulated manuscripts secretly. That banned literature didn't disappear, it mutated into a hidden culture that prized intimacy and coded language, symbol and allegory. Think of how Iranian filmmakers use family stories to critique politics, or how Cuban musicians embed social critique in metaphors. The constraint creates a grammar, a subtextual language audiences learn to decode. When artists uproot, they bring new perspectives back to the world, but exile often strips immediate social embeddedness. The art becomes translation between contexts. Pussy Riot's model, quick, viral actions, deliberately leveraged visibility to protect members with international attention. Ai Weiwei used global networks and the internet to amplify pressure. These tactics show resilience, but they also show cost. Code and allegory preserve some truth, but the blunt, explicit critique is harder to sustain. Beyond tactics, censorship leaves psychological marks. Artists under surveillance report constant scanning for danger, similar to people living with chronic stress. That's exhausting, and it steals creative energy. If the public role of the artist is political dissident in one context and neutral entertainer in another, that split can create artistic identity conflicts. Creativity relies on safe failure. If failure can land you in court, artists avoid experiments, and art becomes polished, risk-averse craft. Some artists feel complicit when they self-censor, others harden into cynicism. Both outcomes reshape their work. Social science studies of censorship and self-censorship show these are not hypothetical. People change their public behavior and even their private thinking when they believe they may be monitored or punished. An important pattern. Heavy-handed censorship can paradoxically amplify the censored message. Banning a book, jailing an artist, or demonetizing a video can generate headlines, solidarity, and more attention than the original act achieved. This isn't guaranteed. Sometimes censorship successfully buries voices, but the risk of blowback makes some authorities calculate, and sometimes miscalculate, their punishments. Pussy Riot's imprisonment created global outrage and gave them a megaphone they hadn't had before. Ai Weiwei's detentions boosted his international profile and made him a symbol of artistic resistance. Censorship can be both a suppressive tool and an accidental amplifier. Today, the biggest censors may look less like ministries and more like algorithms. Platforms moderate content for safety, copyright, and ad compatibility. That moderation is not neutral. It combines corporate policies, opaque enforcement, and economic incentives. Algorithmic moderation can downrank or remove content without human nuance. Community guidelines often force creators to design within narrow allowable formats. Some scholars call this a form of institutionalized censorship disguised as safety policy. There's a debate. Rules protect vulnerable people, but they also become blunt instruments of taste and power. The modern artist must navigate both state law and platform policy, two different legal or technical languages, each with unique incentives and blind spots. And while platform takedowns can be reversed, the chilling effect they create, fear of demonetization, deplatforming, has long-tail consequences for what artists choose to produce. Some thinkers romanticize repression as the crucible of greatness. Pressure makes diamonds. There's truth in the claim that constraint can produce creative forms. Limits can inspire cleverness. But we must be careful. Studies show threat sometimes increases certain creative outputs through reactance, but more often narrows cognitive flexibility and reduces the capacity for sustained, risky experimentation. The net effect of broad systemic censorship is impoverishment, not brilliance. Also, who gets to be the reactant is unequal. Artists with resources, international connections, or diaspora support can resist more effectively than a local poet with no passport, and a young family censorship amplifies inequalities in cultural production. Censorship doesn't only erase works, it erases possible worlds. When artists stop imagining certain things, society stops seeing those futures. That's the most dangerous effect. Self-limitation becomes collective amnesia. If we care about a rich public imagination, messy, uncomfortable, generative, we need systems that let artists fail, experiment, and offend without being crushed. That means legal protections for speech, transparent rules on platforms, and cultural institutions that prioritize pluralism over comfort.